I really gotta be frank with you guys. 2019 and 2020 have been the worst years of my life. And no, I can't just make chocolate pudding because I lost control of my life. 2019 and 2020 have been so terrible for me. It all started in December 2018 when my grandfather had diabetes, he had a lot of health problems, and he was old. And he had a little episode in the car. He was at the deli and he went to the hospital. My mom got the call and my dad soon found out after that, and we were sure he was going to be okay, but then in April 2019, he died. I was in school when it happened. I was in school. It was 6th period in school. I was in 6th period when it happened, and I didn't find out until I got home. And we were all hysterical. Just the only thing good about it is that my grandma, that I don't see very often, that I love very much, got to visit. Which is also kind of a con on its own, because the last 2 times I saw my grandma were in person, were from when my great aunt died, and now from my grandpa died. And it stinks. It's bad. It's not cool. Then it got even worse in 2020. Because, first of all, in 2020, oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, then, not even a couple months later, in July of 2019, July 17th, my aunt died. I lost my 2 most important family members, aside from my parents, in less than half a year. It was terrible. I lost my gramps in April and I lost my aunt in July. And it stinks. It's horrible. It's horrible. We still don't know how my aunt died. She wasn't murdered. She didn't have any bruises or stab wounds or anything like that, so she wasn't murdered and she wasn't killed. I'm theorizing that she had a heart attack, but since she was on my mom's side of the family, I prefer not to tell my mom because, it would upset her, and it could just change her whole demeanor for the whole day, so I don't want to do that to her. But there is something I also want to mention. In 2020, I find out that there's a huge fire in Australia that I learned that got about as big as New York City. Which I didn't really think it was that big until I googled how big New York City was, and I'm like, oh my god. But luckily, as of right now, that's all done, so that's at least one bit of good news. Then I learned that a famous basketball star that we all know and love, Kobe Bryant, died in a helicopter crash. And then, not even a day later, we learned that one of his daughters, Gianna Bryant, was also on there. So, we were very upset. My best friend Gabby, who loves basketball, I unfortunately was the one to tell her about it, and she was hysterical. She cried on me and stuff. It was heart-wrenching. But then we see this virus in China, and I was like, oh, if it's in China, it's not gonna reach here. Well, boy, was I wrong. Because now coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, took over America, and now we have to quarantine, meaning that I'm stuck indoors until further notice. And New York, the state I'm in right now as of recording this, got totally bombarded with cases. Some states got like only a couple thousand. Well, I'm pretty sure the highest in New York that I've seen was like 50,000. Which is insane, because basically my state just totally got hammered with coronavirus cases. Luckily, nobody I know has coronavirus. But one of the very few upsides of my grandfather's death is that we don't have to worry about him catching it. We don't have to like separate ourselves from him, and basically him dying before coronavirus happened, it kind of removed like an extra, kind of took like an extra weight off our backs. But then, after hearing nothing on the news but coronavirus, I see George Floyd with a murderous police officer kneeling on his neck with him saying, "I can't breathe, officer." God, I'm not black, obviously, but now I really know how hard it is to be African American, especially in the East Coast, because people just are jerks to you. And if anyone who's black watching this, I'm not making fun of George Floyd. I'm saying that I feel bad for you. I don't know what you guys have to go through every day, because obviously I'm not black, but just, dude, George Floyd's death could have been avoided. If that officer just should have subdued him properly. I mean, if they were to kneel on anything, they could have like kneeled on his back or something. And I'm pretty sure that when he was saying "I can't breathe," I'm pretty sure that the officer just thought he was lying just so we can let him go. I mean, it's just inexcusable. And then the next thing I know, I see this guy Elijah who got injected with horse tranquilizer by another murderous cop. God, cops just have no respect for black people these days. God, they're just terrible people to black people. I mean, if you're a cop watching this, I'm sorry, but just, if you're a good cop, then I respect you, but like, the cops who killed George Floyd and Elijah, if you're watching this from prison, then just learn from your mistakes. If you're ever released, don't kill someone. I just think although George Floyd's death was a tragedy and it shocked the nation, but an officer straight up suffocating him by kneeling on his neck, I mean, that's just a horrible and painful death, and I still feel bad for that poor guy. But I feel like that this guy Elijah, I don't know his last name, sorry. I feel like Elijah's death is so much worse. and so much more absurd because horse tranquilizer? Really? I didn't even know cops carry tranquilizers. I just thought that they have like pistols and rubber bullets and pepper spray and tasers. I thought the only chemical they had was pepper spray, which was specifically supposed to subdue big and scary criminals by just spraying them in the eyes and blinding their sorry butts. But they were like, nope, I'm gonna carry horse tranquilizer and kill a man. Specifically another black man. So now, along with the protests for George Floyd, now there were protests about Elijah and George Floyd, and the amount of Black Lives Matter protests doubled because of stupidity like that. Which is exactly what I want to bring up now. The protests, the rioting, and the looting. If you're a rioter and a looter and you're watching this, turn yourself in and hopefully the jury might show mercy on you. If you're honest about it and you just go to the jury and just confess, maybe your honesty will perhaps make the judge and the jury show mercy on you. If you're just forcefully subdued and resisting arrest, that's just going to get you in more trouble than you already are. God, I just can't deal with such idiots in this world. I mean, like, I heard that somebody on the news, a looter, said, he was like, oh, if the cops are gonna put chaos on us, and we're gonna respond with chaos, I'm stupid. If you're watching this, that's pretty much equivalent to saying, I am a piece of garbage. I know what those cops did was terrible, but you have no right to destroy your neighborhood for it. Do you remember that?